The greatest tragedy of the family is the unlived lives of the parents. Where wisdom reigns, there is no conflict between thinking and feeling. How can I be substantial if I do not cast a shadow? I must have a dark side also, if I am to be whole. We cannot change anything unless we accept it. Whatever is rejected from the self appears in the world as an event. As far as we can discern, the sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light of meaning in the darkness of mere being. Mistakes are, after all, the foundations of truth, and if a man does not know what a thing is, it is at least an increase in knowledge if he knows what it is not. In all chaos there is a cosmos, in all disorder a secret order. Thinking is difficult, that's why most people judge. Show me a sane man, and I will cure him for you. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, in order to avoid facing their own souls. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. There's no coming to consciousness without pain. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. As a child, I felt myself to be alone, and I am still, because I know things and must hint at things which others apparently know nothing of, and for the most part do not want to know. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Every form of addiction is bad, no matter whether the narcotic be alcohol, morphine, or idealism. The pendulum of the mind oscillates between sense and nonsense, not between right and wrong. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people. Loneliness does not come from having no people about one, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to oneself, or from holding certain views which others find inadmissible. You are what you do, not what you say you'll do. I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Deep down, below the surface of the average man's conscience, he hears a voice whispering, "There is something not right." No matter how much his rightness is supported by public opinion or moral code, it all depends on how we look at things, and not on how things are in themselves. The least of things with a meaning is worth more in life than the greatest of things without it. Anyone who attempts to do both, to adjust to his group and at the same time pursue his individual goal, becomes neurotic. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes. We meet ourselves time and again in 1,000 disguises on the path of life. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The latter procedure, however, is disagreeable and therefore not popular. Even a happy life cannot be without a measure of darkness, and the word happy would lose its meaning if it were not balanced by sadness. I must also have a dark side if I am to be whole. Sensation tell us a thing is. Thinking tell us what it is this thing is. Feeling tells us what this thing is to us. We should not pretend to understand the world only by the intellect. We apprehend it just as much by feeling. Therefore, the judgment of the intellect is, at best, only the half of truth, and must, if it be honest, also come to an understanding of its inadequacy. Every human life contains a potential. If that potential is not fulfilled, then that life was wasted. It is often tragic to see how blatantly a man bungles his own life and the lives of others, yet remains totally incapable of seeing how much the whole tragedy originates in himself and how he continually feeds it and keeps it going. Nights through dreams tell the myths forgotten by the day. If there is anything that we wish to change in the child, we should first examine it and see whether it is not something that could better be changed in ourselves. Wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the contraries. An understanding heart is everything in a teacher and cannot be esteemed highly enough. One looks back with appreciation to the brilliant teachers, but with gratitude to those who touched our human feeling. The curriculum is so much necessary raw material, but warmth is the vital element for the growing plant and for the soul of the child. The reason for evil in the world is that people are not able to tell their stories. Nothing has a stronger influence psychologically on their environment and especially on their children than the unlived life of the parent. About a third of my cases are suffering from no clinically definable neurosis, but from the senselessness and emptiness of their lives. This can be defined as the general neuroses of our times. To find out what is truly individual in ourselves, profound reflection is needed, and suddenly we realize how uncommonly difficult the discovery of individuality is. The first half of life is devoted to forming a healthy ego. The second half is going inward and letting go of it. The best political, social, and spiritual work we can do is to withdraw the projection of our shadow onto others. Through pride, we are ever deceiving ourselves, but deep down below the surface of the average conscience, a still, small voice says to us, something is out of tune. Where love rules, there is no will to power, and where power predominates, love is lacking. The one is the shadow of the other. Even a happy life cannot be without a measure of darkness, and the word happy would lose its meaning if it were not balanced by sadness. It is far better take things as they come along with patience and equanimity. We are not what happened to us. We are what we wish to become. Nobody, as long as he moves among the chaotic currents of life, is without trouble. My whole being was seeking for something still unknown, which might confer meaning upon the banality of life. In each of us, there is another whom we do not know. Sometimes you have to do something unforgivable just to be able to go on living. Without this playing with fantasy, no creative work has ever yet come to birth. The debt we owe to the play of the imagination is incalculable. Midlife is the time to let go of an over-dominant ego and to contemplate the deeper significance of human existence. The bigger the crowd, the more negligible the individual becomes. When an inner situation is not made conscious, it appears outside as fate. Loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you. Words are animals, alive with a will of their own. Find out what a person fears most, and that is where he will develop next. If one does not understand a person, one tends to regard him as a fool. Life is a battleground. It always has been and always will be. And if it were not so, existence would come to an end. When you are up against a wall, put down roots like a tree until clarity comes from deeper sources to see over that wall and grow. Friends, like this video and share with someone, and don't forget to subscribe to the Thoughts Club for more videos.